The longer you drag out your sales process, the more likely a prospect is to disappear, ghost, or overthink their way into a maybe or I need to think about it, which, let's be honest, usually turns into a no. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to shorten that sales cycle, close high-ticket deals in one call with confidence without needing discovery, follow-up, or endless back and forth. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to close every single deal on the spot, but it does mean you'll finally have the tools to lead with clarity, confidence, and conviction so that your prospects stop sitting on the fence and they start making real decisions. We're going to break down the entire 5 steps of the one call close process, starting by how to guide the entire conversation with purpose from the very first question you ask. Let's get right into it. And before we do, this is part 4 of a 4-part series. So if you want to check out those other videos around offer, lead gen, appointment setting, go check those out. They will be linked up below. And if you're enjoying the series, do me a big favor. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. It helps the algorithm reach more people. And if after watching these, you kind of feel like, hey, I want help implementing this, go check out the link in our description below. You can see what it might look like for us to install prospecting in a box into your business as well. Let's get right into it. All right, last and certainly not least is the 7-figure one call close sales system. I'm going to break down all 5 steps right now. Let's dive right in. So step number 1 is all about the idea of actually shortening the sales cycle. Now, a lot of times people are going to have this discovery process where they're going to do like a 15-20 minute call. You'll set a second call where you do the actual pitch, and then that's like an hour, and then you're going to send a proposal, and then the client's going to review it, and then they're never going to get back to you, and you'll never hear from them again. Okay, I'm exaggerating. It's not always the case, but very often people overdo and overcomplicate the sales process for no other reason than just that they haven't been taught a better way. So what we're going to recommend and what the one call close system does is allows you to condense qualification, demo, and asking for and making the sale at least a down payment or deposit on the first call to get someone to make the commitment necessary and not lead them to a place of indecision, which frankly is the most common decision, which is just doing nothing. And that leads them to a place where they don't get what they want, they don't get the outcomes they want, or get the business to the place where they want it to be. And it leaves you kind of stuck in the same place too and frustrated because you can't impact and serve that client and you can't earn as much as you would like. So what I want you to do first and foremost is just eliminate proposals from your process. Now, there are obviously exceptions to this. If we're talking about general marketing, consulting, and coaching agencies, you don't need proposals unless these are big enterprise deals where there's multiple stakeholders that need to be involved in the conversation and you need to go through multiple calls to kind of get this through. Sure, that might make sense. Now, if you are in a position where you do have to do a proposal, never send that to them between calls to let them review without you. Tell them, hey, we'll create the proposal, then we'll get on a call and we'll review the call together so it doesn't create confusion, because a confused mind does not buy. But obviously, a lot of times people are going to still want something in writing, and there should be some contract to protect you and them in the relationship. So what do you do here? We recommend something called a service level agreement. It's basically a pre-created document you have that every single client looks at and signs that lays out the expectations of you, the expectations of them, the promised deliverables, the payment terms, and communication expectations. So all of the core things you would include in a proposal typically, but it's already pre-done, so people can't use that as an excuse to get you off a call like, yeah, just send me a proposal and we'll look at it. No, that's a red flag. Don't do that. Say, hey, I have a service level agreement that I can share with you right here, but I guess I'd be wondering like what you would hope that would say that I can't cover for you right here on this call, so it doesn't create any, uncertainty or confusion on your end. And you can just show that to them there on the call if that's something they really feel strongly about reviewing, but it also saves you the hassle of having to create a custom proposal for every single person you speak with, which again, just elongates the sales process and creates frustration if you don't ultimately get that deal. Now, how do we qualify? Well, if you go back to our previous videos, we talked about a little bit on the appointment setting side and on the ad side. As people are booking onto your calendar, or you have appointment setters, or yourself calling them, that is the opportunity to qualify them then and there. And if they're not qualified financially, or they don't have the need, or they don't have the urgency, then don't do the sales calls with them. Don't waste your time on someone who ultimately isn't in a buying position. So these are a couple of the things you can do to really condense that sales cycle and give yourself the ability to get paid on that call. Now, a little bit of a bonus here, make sure you actually have a way to get paid on the call as well. Like if you have to do some invoicing thing and you send it to them and you wait for them to pay you, No bueno. Have a way in which you can take a credit card or bank account right then and there on the phone and at least collect the down payment and get a scheduled secondary payment so that you are not kicking that ball down the road, and they are showcasing their commitment by putting actual skin in the game and making an initial payment. Cool. Pretty straightforward. Step number 2. The 4 W's. So shout out to my business partner, Alex Schlinsky. He has really been, hanging his hat on the One Call Close teachings he's put out over the last decade or so. And he talks a lot about what the 4 W's are. The 4 W's are very simply this: where are you at now? Where do you want to go? What's the gap or the challenge? And then what is the urgency? And now you're probably not going to ask those questions in that exact way, but those are the general frames around which you need to be asking prospects. So for example, where are you at now might be like, well, how are you currently getting clients? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? Okay. And in a perfect world, where do you want the business to end up financially? What would be a perfect, like if you could build a bear workshop, a ideal service that gets you to an ideal destination, what would that look like? And then why are some of the reasons what you're currently doing aren't working, and what's kind of keeping you from figuring that out on your own? And I guess when are you wanting to actually see these changes happen in your business, and what is that timeline so I can help you reverse engineer when you need to actually start doing these things to get to that outcome? And if you don't have these 4 W's, the chances of you getting, I need to think about it, I want to wait, I don't have the money, all of those objections will start to play out and be a lot harder to deal with if you're not pre-handling those objections at this stage by actually asking them logistical reasons about logistical things around where they currently are, where they want to go, the urgency, and the challenges. Those are the 4 W's. Very straightforward. You just need to make sure you're asking these things on a sales call to build up enough need and desire for the prospect to even hear what your offer is. And for you also to validate that they would even be a good client, because if they're not meeting your criteria, you don't have to make them an offer. And I probably wouldn't. So you're not putting yourself in a spot where you're having to serve someone who ultimately is going to have buyer's remorse and be a pain in the ass to work with. All right. Step number 3, tell to sell. This is one of the most unspoken yet critical parts of any sales process, and it comes down to your conviction in the product you serve and how strongly you believe the person you're selling to can benefit from that. So the idea of tell to sell is very simply telling someone to make the investment, telling them to do it from a place of empathy and actual belief that it can serve them. If you don't actually believe it can help them, don't tell them that. That's disingenuous. That is bad salesmanship. That is snake oil sales, right? And I do not, and you should not accept that or be doing that. But what happens is when you can confidently and with integrity tell someone, no, this is an offer is not for you. You shouldn't do this. In the inverse, you need to be able to, from a place of integrity, tell someone when they should do it. We very often talk to our setting and sales team about no half measures. You cannot go onto a call and think like, hey, I think you should do this. Like, hey, you need to do this because this is going to put you in the best possible position to go from where you are now to where you want to be. And I know in my bones that when you make this investment and you look back in 30 days, you'd be running through walls right now to make this happen because this is a perfect fit for you and it's exactly what you need. There's a huge difference between that and, hey, I think you should do this. If you think and you don't know with certainty, that uncertainty will be translated to your clients. They'll feel that level of uncertainty and they won't make the investment in themselves. So tell to sell is very simply telling someone to make the investment when you believe it's the right thing for them to do. And you're leading from a place of service. It's not about selling or persuading or pressuring. It's about leading from service and helping someone understand this is what they need if they want to solve XYZ problem that they have. All right, last 2. And before I jump over to those, again, if you're enjoying this, do me a huge favor, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button to the channel, drop a comment below letting me know you're enjoying the series. And if you're interested in seeing how we can do this for you, go ahead and click the button in the description below or the link below. That'll lead you over to our Prospecting in a Box demo, and you can check it out and see if it makes sense for where you are. All right, 3-pillar pitch. Shout out to 7th Level for this frame, but so many people overcomplicate their service and the complexity creates confusion and your prospect ultimately doesn't buy because you just kind of scared them away by over explaining what you do. Easiest thing that I can recommend that you do is create a 3-pillar pitch. Basically, it is 3 things that you do for them that solve the problem that they have. And you can do it in a format by which you are going to explain why most people fail at XYZ, and then what your offer does to solve that. And even better, a metaphor around that to make it easy for their brain to understand what that looks like. I'm going to actually go give you a live example of how we do this, and you can kind of get a taste of also what prospecting in the box looks like. So let's go take a look. So in our pitch, we literally show 3 pillars because the visual helps people's brain understand. A lot of times people are visual learners. So I love the visual because it helps them wrap their mind around it. But what we do is offer clarity, leads on demand, one call close, sales system. And what I tell people is I go through this and I don't overdo it, right? It's like 7 slides, and the first slide is like the cover. So it's like really 6 slides. I also sometimes don't even go through the last slide depending on the person I'm speaking with. But basically, I say, hey, most agencies do XYZ and it's not working. So what we do is this: clarify the offer and then take pressure off the back end fulfillment system that doesn't require you to do all the work. And the next, it's like, hey, so what we do is we don't just help you run profitable ads, we help you fund them through client finance acquisition that gives you peace of mind through our cash infusion strategies, blah, blah, blah. Number 3 is going to be we install our proven, repeatable one call close sales process, help you customize this, increase your close rate, and maximize every opportunity you get. And then I have a little bit of a bonus here where I say, hey, the foundation of all of this is mentorship and community. We do daily live sessions, one-on-one Zoom support, unlimited Slack access, and weekly peer masterminds. And I have so many metaphors that I use around this. Sometimes I use the assembly line metaphor. Sometimes I talk about them being on an island and this being, giving them the perspective they want from the person on the mountain, or them being in a valley and this being the person on the peak, or giving them an unfair advantage by having a backseat driver. There's so many different versions of this you can use, or the leaky bucket metaphor where, hey, you have a leaky bucket of opportunities. We'll plug that bucket up to make sure water is not leaking out. So many different variations of metaphors you can use, but find one, and you can leverage ChatGPT for something like this to help you, based on what your offer is, find a metaphor that simplifies the explanation of what you do to make it easy for them to understand and excited for them to want to buy. Now, last and certainly not least is objection handling, right? You need to be able to explain away concerns. Now, there's a lot of objections that could come up from, money to I need to think about it and talk to my partner. I want to do it on my own for a while. We're working with someone else already. And really what all of these objections come down to is 2 core real objections, which are money and uncertainty. So you need to know how to be able to handle those objections inside and out. I have a whole series on this channel on objection handling as well, so you can go check those out. But you need to really, truly understand how to navigate someone back from a place of, hey, is this really a financial thing, or is it more uncertainty? Because people who want to take time to think about it, they aren't really doing anything different in the meantime. They're just hoping they'll become more certain, and you need to be able to help them have that certainty or understand if it's purely a financial concern. And there's this saying that you are the objection that you give. This is what I try and practice and do in my own life, is not be someone who's indecisive, who needs to think about it, who needs to delay, because you can't do for someone else what you can't do for yourself. So you need to do the internal work necessary for yourself to overcome any mental barriers you have around these type of objections, or you will constantly let your prospects get away with the same objections because you don't know how to handle them yourself, and you can't help them handle them either. And then another consideration really important in objection handling is whatever the objection that they give you is, you always want to sidestep that first and ask them to sell themselves essentially on why they like the product. So I'll give you an example like, hey, Brian, it's just a lot of money for me right now. Hey, no problem, John. Totally hear you. Money aside, would you do this? Okay, tell me why you would do this. Well, why would you do this for you though, personally? And now we're going to start to get them out of whatever frame that they're in, or they're telling themselves, or the story they want to tell themselves around the objection, and help them get into outcome-based thinking, where they're going to start to associate the positive benefits of actually doing this thing and sell themselves on the reasons why they need to do it versus the reasons that they don't. And one of my final kind of favorite ways to wrap this up is just the idea of consequences and what's riskier, right? What's actually riskier? riskier, taking the calculated risk of making the investment to get to where they want to go, or risking doing more of the same, or letting the most common decision of indecision become what they do and cause them to stagnate and not build on the momentum they need to get to where they want to go. So this in a nutshell is the one call close sales system. I appreciate you guys so much for sticking with me through this 4-part series. If you want to go check out the other videos and you haven't yet, they will be linked up below so you can go watch them. And if you like this, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and the notification bell to get future videos on the channel. And if you want to see again how we can do this for you in your business, for your marketing agency, your consulting, your coaching agency, your SaaS company, click on the link for the Prospect in a Box demo. Check that out. If it makes sense for you, book a call with our team. It might be me we get to connect with, that you get to connect with, and we'll talk about what it might look like for you. Either way, I appreciate your time so much. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.